You are live.
Good afternoon and welcome on the Sunset Safari. Whew, your timing could not have been more perfect. Jandre and myself were begging that kudu to stay where... Oh, there's another one there. Never mind. So my tremendous relief might have been slight overkill, it appears, since there is another kudu off to the right. I was desperately hoping that one of them might stay in shot for you. Welcome on your live safari experience, coming to you live from Djuma, Arathusa and Cheetah Plains Game Reserves in the Sabi Sand in the Greater Kruger National Park area of South Africa, where our nibbling kudu is enjoying her late lunch. My name is Jamie, and this afternoon I have Jandre on camera with me. James is out and about with Brian, going looking for lions, and as I said, we're the only place in the world you can come to for a live and interactive safari experience. So if you have any questions, you can send those through on #SafariLive on Twitter, or you can email through to questions@WildEarthTV. And please do let us know. Oh, there's a baby. I don't know if it's going to stay in view, but there is a tiny baby little kudu walking at the back. It has gone. The baby kudu has gone. That keeps being my day today. I spot the baby animal and then it disappears from view immediately. How far back do you think we can roll, Jandre? It is a glorious morning. No, it's not a glorious morning. It's a glorious afternoon. No, this little baby's going to keep us guessing. We have to go around. It is a glorious afternoon out here in the African bush. 23 degrees centigrade, which is 74 in Fahrenheit. And it is actually quite hot in the sunshine. And of course the temperatures, it is midwinter here in South Africa, so the temperature does drop right down as soon as the sun sets, but for now it is the kind of afternoon that makes you want to go and bask in the sunlight somewhere. Desperately trying to get you a view of this little baby kudu. Negative, that's not going to work either. We can do this. Everybody, we're going to search for a gap. There we go. I will show you this little baby kudu, because it's very cute. Hiding away behind Mom. There's a couple of little ones disappearing into the trees. Rightio, while our kudu are lovely and very graceful, however, they are not quite as flat as the animals that James has just found for you. Let us head across to the most iconic animal of the African bush.
Good afternoon, everybody. Sorry about that. I was just put to sleep by these cats, which you can see are doing what cats do very best, and that is, of course, absolutely nothing. Welcome on our live safari. I do apologize if I offended any of you with that start. I thought I was being rather amusing, didn't you, Brian?
I enjoyed it.
Thank you so much, Brian. Brian is on camera today, and he has a special guest on the thumb today. Who's that, Brian?
Pinchy Whiner.
And it's Pinchy Whiner, the crab, the freshwater crab, no longer resident. Well, we don't know where he's resident. He could still be in his old hole. He might have moved. Very nice, Brian. Excellent. We've come to these lions. We knew they were going to be asleep, of course, because lions sleep during the middle of the day, and they will move around probably as it gets a bit cooler during the night. 23 degrees Celsius, which is roughly 74 degrees Fahrenheit, if I'm not mistaken. So quite a warm day for the middle of winter, and these lions are luxuriating in the shade of the winter woodland. As you can see, he did look up briefly as we came in here, but then went straight back to sleep. And so we'll have a look at him quickly, and then we'll have a look at the females just down the way. Only 3 of them, and I'm interested as to where the other two are. The one certainly was with her little babies this morning, and we're going to head off that way and see if we can have a look at them this afternoon. The other one, I suspect, also with those other 3 little cubs, but where they are we don't know. Quite near the camp we had some bushbuck alarm calling earlier, and we thought we might find the little cubs and their mother somewhere around there. We did have a brief look around before we came up here, but they were not around. So that's the case here. We're as live as Jamie is, believe it or not, even though I started off this show fast asleep. Do talk to us, hashtag Safari Live, or questions at WildEarth.TV. It would be lovely to hear from you, and especially if things get a little quiet on the animal front. It's always nice to spark some conversations about Africa, conservation, many issues that you might want to talk about regarding conservation and the African wilderness. Well, we'd be happy to try and address those as we go along. Also, I know there has been quite a lot of query about going to visit those little cubs, which are now, there we go, huge action. You see that, Brian? I think a stick snapped nearby, which got fright. I'm going to roll forward. There have been quite a lot of queries about us going to see those little cubs, which are now probably only about, 14 days old or so. And a lot of you wondering whether that's sensitive or not, or whether we should be viewing cubs that age or not. And I'll go through that as we drive there, because it's important you understand that we're being as sensitive as we possibly can. I think the clutch in this car is about to go, which is slightly disconcerting when you're surrounded by lions, even if they are asleep. Just going to ease our way in here. Well, I'm sorry to disturb you, madam. I've no doubt you'll fall asleep almost immediately. Sorry. That's a stick flicking up on the bottom of the car that's woken them up, and that makes me feel very bad. I do apologize, lions. Even though I know they will go back to sleep immediately, it's never nice when you cause them to react in a way that they wouldn't otherwise. Look at all the flies flying around them there. Chucky, fast asleep again. Chucky Baby, interesting Twitter handle, that Chucky Baby. You want to know when the last time we saw the Birmingham boys was? Well, Brian, the last time we saw the Birmingham boys was 2 minutes ago, would you say? About 2 minutes ago, Chucky Baby. That lion we just saw is one of the Birmingham boys. And there he is. He's just a recumbent and asleep. And Chucky Baby, I'm going to call you CCB. I can't bring myself to keep saying Chucky Baby. CCB, they are... I think the reason there's perhaps a slight confusion is that they are not always together, of course. In fact, they're very seldom together, and the more dominant they get in the area, the less the time that they will spend with each other. Normally, a coalition of 4 like this will split into 3s, at least into 2s. But these guys seem to spend a great deal of time on their own, either with females or just patrolling literally on their own. And sometimes a group of 2, seldom a group of 3, and almost never anymore a group of 4 of them. So CCB, there is the Birmingham boy, I think different from the one we saw yesterday on Cheetah Plains, who I think was Birmingham number 2, and I remember that because he has those 2 very obvious little nicks above his right nostril. There we go, beautiful belly of lioness, and you can see there if she is lactating. She is definitely lactating, that lioness. So which mother she is, we're not sure. We know that there are at least 3 lionesses within this pride that are lactating. That's one of them. You can see the very clear swelling of her teats. You can also maybe make out the discoloration of the fur around them, which is brought on by the extensive suckling of her cubs. You can't see her face, and I don't want to get any closer, of course, because you saw how those 2 reacted, because it's just a bit thick in here. They weren't nervous at all. It was just the banging of the sticks on the bottom of the car that made them a little bit skittish. Anyway, they are completely at peace here, and that is the way of lions. Sandra, very nice question from you, of course, especially being dark-haired myself. Well, I used to be when I had hair. And Sandra, you say, is it true that female lions prefer darker-haired males? The answer is yes, to an extent, but it's not clear whether it's them actually doing the selecting or the fact that the darker mane represents a greater testosterone level and therefore a greater dominance in a coalition of males that sort of provides a selective pressure. So, for example, the coalition of males that got tossed out of here by the Birmingham boys when they came a-marauding exactly a year ago, one of them had a ginger mane, and he was called Ginger, and the other one had a black mane, and he wasn't called Black Mane, he was called Hairy Belly. And they both are still called that, and they live down at Londolozi on the Sand River at the moment, and he certainly, the one with the dark mane, certainly seemed to do the bulk of the mating. Now, whether that was because they selected for him, or because he was just dominant over his brother, I'm not sure. So that black mane absolutely indicates a greater level of testosterone in the body, and it turns the mane much blacker, and that can have two effects. Either the lionesses are picking up on it, or he is more dominant over his brother, and so his brother backs off when there's any kind of competition. So one of the two. But yes, essentially it is true that a more black-maned lion will probably have greater mating opportunities. Jamie has got some very unusual winter animals to show you, so let's go across to her. I'm going to move to the cubs.
Some very unusual winter animals indeed, and they're not animals. They're leaves fluttering in the rising air currents, the thermals that the vultures ride on. But I don't know how easily you can see this. Genre is doing an amazing job of capturing it. But it looks like floating gold specks. It's absolutely stunning. At first I thought I was imagining it, but it's the leaves blowing in the wind and catching the light. It is incredible to watch. It really looks like somebody's thrown a handful of giant gold glitter into the sky. I've never seen anything like it. This is definitely one of the prettiest times of year to be out in the bush. These contrasting colours. Incredible. So beautiful. It's tumbling out of the air. I suppose for those of you who experience the incredible colour change of your autumn or fall, with leaves changing the colours, perhaps this isn't such an extraordinary experience for you, but for us it is just really beautiful, especially against the expansive African sky, which is the bluest of the blue on afternoons like today. And then, of course, just for fun, because we can, this view of the moon and all its craters as it slowly approaches the point of being full. So that's nice every now and again in our frenetic search for the various animals and animal life of Djuma and Arathusa and the Sabi Sand. Nice every now and again to stop and just look at the view. We're going to head across to Cheetah Plains, actually. Here's my plan. Speaking of views, we're going to check along the southern boundary just to see if Queen Karula hasn't made her way back across. This morning was quite dramatic, with her, we think, being chased off the kill that she had south of our boundary, and then followed back to her cubs by 2 hyenas. Alarm calling, go away, birds. Go away. Let's go investigate what's got them upset. There is a good chance she's come back north. And there we go. Of course, Aaron, I think, watching in New Zealand, and Aaron thinking along the same lines I am thinking of, which is, I don't know, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm relatively certain that I found brown hyena tracks on Cheetah Plains. and I thought it might be a good idea to go back to that area around evening time, especially in winter when the temperature drops sooner and the nocturnal animals come out faster. I thought it might be a nice idea to go and investigate whether or not we can find, because that would be incredibly exciting. If we had a regular brown hyena walkway or pathway, that would be fantastic. Trying to find where this red-crested korhaan is, and now the go-away birds are calling as well, again. That high-pitched whistling. Oops, my lip got too dry. See if he responds to me, or if he's not. Oh, it's quite the high-pitched whistle, that. Sorry, everybody, if you're feeling slightly deafened at home. I'm trying to call the red-crested korhaan. He's not far, he's close. But they've got a slight ventriloquist nature to their call. Hoping he might even give us his flight display, although it is the wrong time of year. Oh, I think I won that. I don't see him anywhere. He's probably strutting out looking for this rival red-crested korhaan. He's really not far away. I don't know if any of you have managed to spot him. I haven't. I don't think Jandre has. Perhaps he's hiding in the trees somewhere there. Okay, I'm not going to call him anymore. He might be intimidated into thinking that there is an enormous male red-crested korhaan about to compete for his territory, and I don't want to do that. Pity, he's somewhere here. I would show you what he looks like, but unfortunately my bird book is where where we usually live at Inge's house, but we've been temporarily displaced from there for now, and I unfortunately left my bird book there, which is very silly. I'm sure he's sitting on a termite mound or something. Okay. Guess not. No response from him. Okay. See if there's any tracks of Karula coming back across. And a very big hello to Tucker, who is 4 years old. Hello Tucker, I hope you're enjoying your safari experience. Now Tucker would like to know, do the bugs tickle animals' fur? And yes, they do. They definitely do, Tucker. So the flies especially, you'll see even with a sleeping lion, you'll get the ears flicking and the tail flicking because it's irritating them. It's tickling them. Tickling the sensitive fur. Now, Tucker, I don't know if you've got a dog or a cat at home, but you might see them doing that with flies as well. Twitching their ears, twitching their tail to make the insects go away. And it's not just flies, it's also things like ticks that crawl on the animal's fur, make them feel really, really itchy. And so often what they'll do, Tucker, because they don't have 5 fingers and fingernails to scratch themselves, so what they'll often do is either scratch with their hooves or their paws, or if they're something big like an elephant, then they'll go running up to a tree. Let's imagine I'm an elephant, Tucker. Just imagine. Okay, I know I'm a bit smaller than an elephant, but I've got a fly on my face, and it's attached to my cheek. Go away. Go away! Now imagine I'm an elephant, Tucker. So this is what an elephant's going to do. If it's got an itch somewhere, it's going to walk up to a tree just like this one. Like I'm going to do now. Okay. So Tucker, you have to use your imagination here, because I know I don't really look like an elephant, but imagine I'm an elephant with a big trunk, and if I'm feeling a little bit itchy, what elephants do to get rid of the ticks and the insects that irritate them is they'll go up to a tree like this, and they'll actually have a proper scratch like this. Give themselves a good scratch all over on the marula tree bark, and this is the perfect kind of bark for it because it's not too rough, so it doesn't hurt their skin, but it's rough enough that it works like a back scratcher. So, okay, well, I don't think an elephant would be able to do this, but you get the idea, Tucker. Now, that's what you'd have to do if you're an elephant and there's an insect bugging you, irritating your skin. I had a sudden thought as I went wandering in there that that's, I think, exactly where Karula went in that block. Also, that was little Gowrie, but it was only 5 meters. Okay, right, now that we've shown Tucker how elephants scratch their skin, and I've taken the skin off the top 3 vertebrae of my lumbar region, we can carry on. I'm having a bad earpiece day, I'm sorry for fiddling. My earpiece for some reason today doesn't want to be attached to my ear. Alright, well, we look for Karula and slowly move our way to the east. Let's go over to James and find out what he's up to.
You joined us just in time, everyone. What we're doing here is we're now going to go off-road in here. And before we do, I'm just going to quickly address this query that everyone's been asking, or many of you have been asking about the sensitivities around these little cubs. So, you know, there's no hard and fast rule. There is a rule that we don't view them as a game drive sighting if the mother is not there. There is, however, a rule in place here where you're allowed to go and have a look. If mum's there, you can stay and have a look, and then maybe 1 or 2 other game drive vehicles during the course of a drive will come in. The sensitivity around it is to do with smell and to do with sound. And so we don't want vehicles going in and out the whole time, because any threat that there might be, mainly from hyenas, possibly leopards, maybe wild dogs, but it's largely hyenas. Any threat that there might be from hyenas would obviously be that much higher if the sound of vehicles is moving all the time. Likewise, if there's a huge smell of these vehicles, perhaps a hyena coming up wouldn't be smelt as easily. I'm not so convinced about that one, but I'm happy to go with it. So, by going in briefly, stopping the car, not making a noise, not moving and repositioning the whole time, we are not being insensitive. By pulling in and out repeatedly and moving the car to get a better view, then yes, that probably would be insensitive. So that's what we're going to go and do. If mum is not there, we'll have a quick look and then we'll move out again. If mum is there, then we'll stop and we'll have a nice sighting, hopefully, of those little ones. They might all be gone by now. She may have moved the den. Okay, and the fact that she has kept the den where it is for so long now indicates that she personally, the mother, is not disturbed by the presence of vehicles, because that is what makes lionesses move their dens. It makes lionesses move their dens quickly. If they are disturbed, they will move them from time to time, over every sort of a few days or so. But if she'd been disturbed by our presence the first time round, she'd have moved them straight away. So please don't worry about that. And if you have any questions around the sensitivities here, please feel free to ask them. I will address them with pleasure. And it's wonderful to know that we do have so many concerned people around the world. You're concerned for these lions specifically, but it also means that you're concerned about conservation and African wildlife in general. And that's wonderful. So I'm happy to talk about that. I'm happy to debate it even if you'd like to. Well, within reason. She found a wonderful little den site here because it's right in a drainage line. It's quite steep, which means that things like buffalo, which would kill lion cubs, can't really get in there. And so it's a really clever spot for her to be. And the best place to film them from, of course, would be to get out of the car, climb across the knobthorn tree that is leaning over the drainage line, and film them from there. That, of course, would result very quickly in death, because the mother would be very upset with you. So we won't do that, will we, Brian?
Not today.
Not today, no. Hello, Mercedes. I've got a nice way for you to remember this particular thing. For lions, it's 666. Now, that's not meant to be any kind of the number of the devil, but 6 days before their eyes open, 6 weeks before they start moving with the pride, and 6 months before they wean. As far as I remember, that's how it goes. I mean, obviously there are variations there. So you want to know when they'll start moving their cubs on the hunt, or when they'll accompany the pride on the hunt. They'll start accompanying the pride probably from about 8 months. But they won't contribute to the hunt until they're at least a year old. They just hang back and watch. Right, let's see what we can find in here. We're going to go very slowly. They're just down in here, or they were, and I can see Mum is there. Or can I? Yes, Mum is there. So that's good news. And the little ones are there too, and Mum is watching us. Can you see there, Brian? You just let me know when you have a view of the little ones. Now, Mum is not particularly pleased, I can see. I think she will relax. She's just watching us quite carefully, so I'm going to speak very quietly. There, she's relaxing. You can see her eyes blinking. She's starting to go to sleep. You can't see her, I can see her. You can see the little one, though, trying to suckle. Now, if Mum was not comfortable with us, what she'd do is start growling. And she's not growling at all. She's young, you know. I think this must be her first litter. Beautiful. Can you see all right there, Brian?
To a degree.
It's not the best. We're just going to stay here and Can you hear the fish eagle calling above us? There we go. Mum is just relaxing now. She wasn't as relaxed as I've seen her before. So I'm just going to let her settle before I think about maybe moving forward. There, she's yawning. I know you can't see it, everyone, but I can see it. There we go. She's relaxing now. There you can see her eyes starting to close quietly. So let's sit here for a little while and see what happens. I don't think those little things are going to move too much. They look like they're trying to have a bit of a suckle underneath there. Now just 14 days old, or plus minus 14 days old. Just see if I can't get a slightly better view, and I might roll forward just now. There we go. Brian, is that all good for you?
It's all right.
This is fantastic. I can see all three of them. Brian, I don't think with your extra height there, I'm not sure that I'm going to get a better view. I'll tell you what I'll do. I'll just roll forward slightly. How's that, Brian?
Yeah, that's good.
Is that fine?
Yeah. Now it's getting worse.
It's not going to. It's going to be good right now.
Yeah, there we go.
How's that? Okay. Right, everybody, I'm going to just call this in on the radio. This is just too wonderful. Look at the tiny little things there. Just trying to suckle. And Mum hasn't sat up at all. Stations, I have come to this position. The mother is on location. There is a 1 out of 5 visual. I think we should limit it to 3 vehicles per drive, 1 vehicle at a time. This is just my opinion. And there's almost no movement if you can when you get in here, because the visual isn't great, and you have to be quite close to see what's going on. Isn't that lovely? Mike, I don't know what you mean by a unique spot. Mike, yeah, you've got to be pretty close to get a view. So just very sensitive, slow movements around here. Aaron, thank you very much. You say you say that you love these cubs because they take the manliness out of me. Well, I'm not sure why that's why I love them, but I do get your point. I was thoroughly chastised today by Geraldine for talking in baby voice on drive, so you'll notice I haven't done it. Well, I nearly started doing it, but I didn't do it earlier. Geraldine, I hope you've taken note. So yes, they do completely, absolutely make me talk in a very unmanly way. They're all suckling now. Isn't that lovely? That is just too stunning. So 3 little ones, no way to sex them at this stage. And they're all just suckling. I hope you can make out the detail there, but all 3 of them are suckling now. Michael, interesting, very interesting comment from you. You say, with domestic cats, if you start blinking with them and they start blinking in time with you, then it indicates that they have some sort of trust, and they trust you. Would the same work with lions or leopards? I would be very reticent to say yes in that particular situation. I don't know. I have stared at lions. I've stared at them in the eye, both on foot and in vehicles, and I've seen nothing but, blankness, basically. And that's not to insult them at all, but I don't think that the level of communication that exists with the domestic cat and one of these exists. So I would say no. I'm going to go with no. I don't think that the same would apply, that if that lioness started blinking in time with you, that she was indicating some form of trust. I might be wrong, but I don't think so. Isn't that lovely? Now, just to give you an idea of how big they are, they're about the size of a ruler. They're about 12 inches long, each of them, from top to the end of their tails, so they are very small indeed. And they'll grow amazingly quickly, so the other ones that many of you have seen, that we saw also at the Nkuhuma Pride, they are, how old are they now? They're just over 6 weeks. They've started moving with the Pride. Yeah, well, they're not all the time, but they certainly moved from place to place with the Pride, and they went to that kill on Arathusa, which is a long way from here. I mean, that was a good walk for them. And they are substantially bigger than this. Almost double the size, I'd say. Catherine, I have to agree with you. You say you can't believe we're so privileged to watch these little things I can't believe it either. I've never had this privilege before. In all my years of guiding, I've seen young lion cubs, but I've never been in a position where we've been able to view them in a den site like this. It's too special. This is why, of course, I speak in slightly babyish tones sometimes. Brian, I've held it together today, though, haven't I?
To a degree.
Yes. Much more manly today.
The voice is deeper.
Roof, roof. Not sure roof, roof qualifies as manly. I'm just going to try and move that stick out of the way, everybody. How's that? Cindy in Tennessee, you want to know about the Styx Pride and if there was any update on them. They were seen yesterday, indeed, on Cheetah, and they're on Cheetah. I don't know if the cubs were there, but certainly they had a female, or three females with the Birmingham boys. So I don't really know. Oh, look at that. This is incredible, people. This really is something special. So the Styx Pride cubs I don't know about. I certainly haven't heard anything negative about them. But you see, they spend quite a lot of time on Cheetah, southern end of Cheetah Plains and onto Mala Mala. And that's why we don't see them very often. Jamie's going across to Cheetah Plains now. I don't know how well they searched Cheetah Plains this morning. I don't mean that negatively. I don't know how many people were around on Cheetah Plains this morning. Maybe they were around there. Look at their little ears moving with each suck. So, if we go back to the sensitivity of it, you can see, well, I hope you can see that we're not having an effect here. Mum looked up as we came in. She's gone back to sleep. The cubs are suckling normally. We're making no noise. Were a hyena to come across here, she'd pick it up immediately. Were there to be some form of rustling in the bushes, she'd pick that up and hear it immediately. This is why I'm talking quite quietly. And is our smell affecting them? I don't believe so. I'm not sure how much they rely on smell when they are in a position like this. Probably a little bit. So that could be the only thing I suspect that we could say was maybe compromising the sensitivity of the situation. We're not going to be here for long, probably only another 3 or 4 minutes, and then we'll move out. Oh, look. Oh dear, I did it. Bad luck. Second time, sorry about that. It's difficult to be manly around them, you know, Brian.
I do.
And Brian and I, of course, you know, we're doubly unmanly because as soon as it gets vaguely cold, we put jerseys on, which is very unmanly, isn't it, Brian?
Least manly.
It's the least manly thing you can do. Susan, a nice question from you about whether or not the lionesses ever come into the den site before the mother's ready to introduce them to the pride. Yes, sometimes, and certainly we only found this den site because there were other lions around here. Jamie was following the lions trying to kill a buffalo very close to here a few nights ago, and that is the only reason that we know they're here. So absolutely it does happen. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. She doesn't really mind. She would happily introduce them to the pride if the pride was here. The only reason she doesn't kind of introduce them or make them move with the pride earlier is because it's difficult for them to move with the pride. They're not big enough yet to be able to walk on their own properly. lovely. I'm trying to take a picture, but it's hopeless through all that bush. So special. And like I say, in all my years of being out here, I'd never spent time like this at a lion's den site. I've never had this incredible privilege. Those little feet, everyone, about the size of a silver dollar. You can, well, any dollar, I guess. Isn't a dollar about that big?
I think so.
So they really are so very tiny. Slightly, probably slightly bigger than a domestic cat's foot, but not much. But they're definitely fatter. And you can see they're more exploded. So you can see that the 3 or the 4 pads at the front are further away from the back pad than they would be on a domestic cat. And look at the muscle definition there. You see the strength there in the forefoot. Now, Michael, you ask a very good question here. You say, if these cubs make it, is there any chance that they could grow up and mate with their father or their uncles, so one of the Birmingham boys, or likewise, is there any chance that they could... oh, she's up. She's heard something. I think it's babblers that are just foraging around here. Michael, I will get back to your question because it's a very good one. And the answer is yes, it is possible. But this is why, or one of the interesting things about a coalition tenure, as you say, or you suggest, would another coalition take over? A coalition's tenure is normally not much longer than 2.5 to 3 years, which basically means that by the time these lionesses, let's assume that 1.5 of those 3 are lionesses, by the time they're of breeding age, the coalition will either be in its last throes and be about to toss out, or that what will happen is that they will mate with their daughters, and in so doing they do create incest, but within the next year normally another coalition will take over, and so those... got something in her nose. So that coalition that does come in... Sorry, I'm just hearing some noise behind us. So the new coalition would kill those cubs born of incest. And that's normally what would happen, Michael. But remember with the cats that incest for up to 6 generations is seemingly okay. Doesn't seem to have any deleterious effects. So incest is quite possible with these cubs. Likewise, it's possible that a young male might try and mate with his mother or his sisters, but that's why they get tossed out when they're about 3.5 or 3 years old, in the same way that Junior was, as he started to try and mate with these lionesses of the Nkuhuma pride. Now Junior, for those of you who don't know, was a male who grew up with the pride. I think probably the same age as this female we're looking at here, about 4 years old now, and she might actually be younger than that. You can see her nose still completely pink, so I'm pretty sure these are her first cubs. Okay, everyone, we're going to pull out of here. I'm not going to sit here all afternoon. We did have a wonderful sighting. I only used baby talk twice, and I think I'm to be congratulated for that, don't you, Brian?
Congratulations, James.
Thank you very much, Brian. Okay, here we go. Now the clutch on this car is a little bit dodgy. Let me just see what she's doing. Okay, just want to see what she does quickly. Let's just sit here for 2 more minutes. We'll pull out once Jamie's on Cheetah Plains. There we go. Just wanted to see if they didn't start having a little bit of a play. can't see anything going on here. Alright everyone, let's go across to Jamie. She's got something much larger and exciting to show you. Well, not more exciting than this, but certainly much larger. And we'll catch you once we're out.
Well, I think our elephants are definitely exciting. I would describe them as exciting, but they're definitely a lot larger and certainly a lot less fluffy than the lion cubs that you've been looking at with James. And we've found ourselves at an elephant roadblock, which is actually relatively inconvenient because this is the well-known signal black hole of Cheetah Plains. Just as you drive through into the entrance, our signal always disappears here. So I'm hoping that by staying remarkably still, we will be able to show you these elephants, because obviously at this point I cannot go racing past. I wonder if this is the same. I don't think it is. But I was wondering if perhaps it was not the same herd that we saw. Yes, oh no, not yesterday morning, this morning on the sunrise safari. They had the tiniest little baby. Too cute for words. And I have to tell you that secretly I've been hoping to relocate that herd on Cheetah Plains once again, just because I would love for you to see that little elephant calf. It's only a couple of weeks old. There's a little one. There you go, the best, definitely the best view you've had of a little baby elephant. Okay, dare we brave the repositioning? That is the question. Jean-Andre thinks no, I think yes. What shall we do? Oh, look, little baby's actually going for the, I don't know if you can see it from your angle, Jean-Andre. Giving nonsense to one of the other vehicles. Hey, little one. There is another vehicle there. There's a Cheetah vehicle. And the little baby's doing what they often do to us, which is racing forward and charging them and then getting a little bit scared. And now indecisive and not quite so brave as he was initially. It's okay, little one. There's no shame in admitting defeat. Perhaps to be spurred on by the company of the other elephant calf now. Or perhaps distracted. Distracted, it seems. Oh, are we going to go for the vehicle? Let's go forward a bit. There we go. Right, let us brave the repositioning. And try and get you another view of this elephant herd. Unfortunately, they are moving in the wrong direction. They're going towards Nkoro. Not the wrong direction for them, obviously. Hello, guys. Ooh, lovely big herd. Oh, everybody keep fingers crossed for signal. I think I'm gonna oops. Okay, we're gonna stop. We're gonna stop here. Nobody breathe, nobody move. We seem to have signal. That's mighty unfriendly. I was waving, nobody waved back. Oh no, now this is just embarrassing. Nobody wants to wave at me at all. Oh well. Watch the elephants instead. Lots and lots of elephants busy munching on sickle bush, largely. And while we are with our elephants here on Cheetah Plains, Benji, sorry. I keep doing that. Every time we mention Benjamin, I get his name confused with the person asking the question. Aaron, New Zealand Aaron, has said that another baby that it would be delightful to see would be Benjamin Button, the elephant that is old before his time, baby elephant with the most wrinkly forehead in the entire world. You are absolutely right. I would love to see Benji again. Oh, yay, I got a wave. I'm not being completely rejected. I agree, Aaron. I think to see Benji would be marvellous. I think he's a character that we've come to know and love. I wonder if he's going to always keep that really easily identifiable wrinkly forehead. I don't think so. I don't think that he is. I think he's going to change. But hopefully we will be able to watch Benji grow up and become a big, strong elephant bull. At the moment, he just looks like he's got lots and lots of concerns and quite possibly the world upon his shoulders. This elephant, on the other hand, the only responsibility she's feeling at the moment is munching away on the black monkey thorn. Chandra, I don't know, can you see that elephant that's in front? Oh, no, it's stopped doing it now. It's, hasn't been terribly successful in its sickle bush eating habits. But I think we're in the wrong place and we can't move. While we're watching this herd with lots of little elephant calves wandering about, you'll notice some of them, particularly the one that was charging the vehicle earlier, didn't have any tusks. And Abhishek, welcome to the Sunset Safari. It's wonderful to have you on board and to receive your question. You wanted to know what age an elephant's tusks will start growing. They'll start poking through at usually around 3 or so years old, possibly just a little bit before, possibly just a little bit after. Like kids, it depends on the individual itself. So you know how some kids lose their teeth earlier than others, or grow their permanent teeth earlier than others? A little baby elephant is like that. The interesting thing about that is that little baby elephants actually have milk tusks in the same way children have milk teeth, but you don't actually see them. They don't protrude beyond the lip. As they are modified teeth. That is what a tusk is. A tusk is a tooth, but a very long tooth, very specialized tooth. And a very, very solid one. And then some elephants, of course, as we saw this morning, with the tuskless females, some elephants, a very small percentage of them, don't get tusks at all. They just never grow. And we're surrounded by, not surrounded, we've got just the sounds, accompanied to the sounds of elephants feeding absolutely everywhere, munching away. And it's such a peaceful sound, it almost lulls one to sleep. Just that gentle crunching. I think she is going to move off, and I'm too scared to reposition to get us in a better place without losing our signal. We'll content ourselves for now watching this colossus of the African bush devour her lunch. Still looking fine. I know a lot of you have commented on the fact that we're seeing quite a few skinny elephants. Most of them are looking okay. Bones not too prominent, even though we are in the middle of the dry season after a prolonged drought. They're still looking absolutely fine. Hey, big girl. The nice thing about Cheetah Plains is it carries with it enormous potential for lots of marvelous elephant sightings. I think we should go and try and find one where we don't run the risk of losing our signal. And while we do that, let's go back across to the wonderful Mr. Henry, find out how his day, if his day could get any better than it has already been.
My day couldn't really get any better, but for being allowed, of course, to talk in baby talk, which I'm not going to do now. We're heading towards Buffelshoek Dam. We might maybe see some elephants there. I suspect quite strongly what we're going to see there is some buffalo, maybe a grey heron, and possibly a waterbuck, and maybe Buffelshoek Bob, the bachelor of the dam. You see how I changed it up there, Brian? Thank you very much. We might also see Pinchy Winer's friends. Anyway, we're not too far from there. And as we drive down this little patch of woodland, I'm reminded, of course, that Brian and I are going on leave as of tomorrow, and this is going to look immeasurably different in 2 weeks' time. There's going to be much, much less in the way of foliage on these leaves, and I don't know, I think I'm always excited to get back and see how it's changed. Because you don't, you know, I mean, of course all of you know that you don't notice these changes as they happen. Hello, Andrew Firestone. You're a new viewer and you say, is it autumn here in South Africa? No, Andrew, it's not autumn. We're in full-blown winter in the same way that the Northern Hemisphere is in full-blown summer. And I guess the reason you're thinking it's autumn, perhaps, is that these leaves, or the trees, still maintain some of their leaves. And interestingly, as we go into springtime, we get lots of wind blowing through this area, and that's when the trees lose their leaves. Because it doesn't get especially cold here, Andrew, what happens is that the leaves actually last longer than they would in the Northern Hemisphere, and they continue to photosynthesize for a few months after the autumn and probably into the winter as well. And then they lose their leaves in the driest part of the season, which is in August and September and into October, and then all the leaves come back after that. So although it looks like it's autumn, it isn't. It's full-blown winter, and we get that kind of wintry look where all the trees that look like skeletons a bit later on. Ooh, there's a zebra just up ahead. He went trotting off. There he is. He thought he could escape us, Brian, but he cannot. There he is. Looks like a lone fellow. No, there's another one going off behind him. This will be the stallion. I say that with confidence, and it is a stallion. Whew. Now, he may be part of a little group of 2 or 3 stallions that are not quite old enough to have their own harem yet. Or he might be the harem leader, in which case his oldest wife will be leading the herd through the woodland, and he'll be standing behind here. That's largely because any threat that could assail them would most likely come from behind, and he being the larger of the group, he is best equipped to deal with the threat. Right, let us go through here. There are some buffalo, as predicted. Bob, the bachelor of Buffelshoek, is indeed in attendance. All we're missing now is the grey heron. And no, Egyptian geese we got. We don't see any grey heron, though. I was wrong, Brian.
James, you can't be right all the time.
I know. But this water is drying very fast, and I think by the time Brian and I return in 2 weeks' time, there will be no water left here, maybe a small puddle. And then it will not be a particularly productive place to come and visit. Now, on Bob's back, many of you may notice, is a group of terrapins. They are freshwater turtles. Well, as much as you can describe this water as fresh, it's fresh in so much as it's not salty, but it certainly isn't something you'd like to drink, not unless you could avail yourself of a public convenience very soon thereafter. And they are big. Those are really big serrated hinged terrapins. They're probably about a foot in diameter. They're probably about that wide. So they really are pretty big. And quite heavy, and they're quite fat too. So I wonder, maybe the younger ones don't make it quite so easily after the water gets dry like this. It's quite possible they get eaten by birds and that sort of thing, and that only the really big ones like this get through a difficult dry season. And they're sunning themselves, of course, because it is winter. They don't want to be too cold. They find it very difficult to move when it's cold, because they are, of course, ectothermic. In other words, they're cold-blooded. And the other thing they do is eat off the ectoparasites from the hippo. So in much the same way as you can see the... Oh, there's some squirrels alarm calling. In much the same way that the oxpeckers are sitting on the buffalo behind the hippo, eating off the ectoparasites and the ticks there, so it is that the terrapins will be eating off the ectoparasites on the hippo. I'm going to just sit here for a little bit longer and see what happens with those alarm-calling squirrels. Jamie has managed to find herself some signal and some more elephants. New elephants. The link has been cancelled. We're still here. You can wait with me and see what happens with the... you can... I've lost my train of thought slightly. Ah, yes. There is a buffalo. And sorry, everyone. I got completely flummoxed. I shouldn't have been flummoxed, of course. I should be able to handle that entirely. Pinchy Weiner, you've sent through a tweet. Thank you, Pinchy. You say I can stop by for a visit at any time. That's very kind, Pinchy. I might do that. Thank you very much. If you could send your address, that would be great. Now, Brian, the other thing here, of course, these two Egyptian geese. And if there was ever an advertisement for not to get married, well, Egyptian geese provide it. They do nothing but argue with each other, and when they aren't arguing with each other, what they do here is stand, one of them looking like it's sulking, the other with its back turned, feeding. So it looks like the most appalling domestic arrangement that the Egyptian geese have. Normally they're standing, staring at each other, going, whack, 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 or they're flying around the dam here, one of them chasing the other, shouting very loudly. There are plenty of examples of animals that show much better examples of marital bliss than the Egyptian goose, but the Egyptian geese really bad example for monogamy. Look at them. You can see they've just had a spat and they don't know what to say to each other. There's quite a lot of alarm calling going on just north of the dam here. I think it's going to be worth sitting here just to see what happens. I wonder if there isn't a predator coming down here to have a drink. We don't know where that Nkahuma lioness with the 3 older cubs is. That's the main difference. They also, terrapins tend to be carnivorous, so they'll eat ectoparasites and things like that. They'll also eat small fish. They'll probably eat small reptiles. They sometimes grab birds that come down to drink. And so they tend to be a lot more carnivorous, where the tortoises are normally almost entirely herbivorous, but for the Spix-hinged tortoise, which fancies the odd bit of escargot. They like to eat the giant land snails every so often. I suspect more for the calcium provided by the shell of the snail, rather than for the delicious flavour of the snotty consistency that is inevitable when you eat a snail. Book Diva, you want to know how come it is that hippo allows those very large terrapins to stand on his back. Book Diva, I suspect for the same reason that I sometimes just allow flies to sit on my head. It tickles and it feels nice. I'm being slightly facetious here. I don't think that they have any effect on him. I think he's just got used to them. I suspect the first time a terrapin climbs on the back of a hippo, he probably shakes them off and gets a bit of a fright. But eventually they just realize there's no harm done. And, well, in the same way that a buffalo allows an oxpecker or sometimes a cattle egret, which, doesn't eat ticks off it. But sometimes you'll find a cattle egret standing on top of a buffalo, or a heron standing on top of a hippo. They don't have any effect on them. And I actually suspect quite strongly that it feels quite nice. to have them walking about on top there. Probably just gives them a little bit of a tickle. You like a back tickle every so often, Brian?
I love it.
Yes, you see. I find the same. Not that I've ever had oxpeckers or terrapins crawling around on my back or on my head. Alright, that's enough of that. Let's move on. I'm going to just stick my head down the northern end of the dam, see if there isn't anything coming this way. The completely relaxed nature, however, of those buffalo bulls indicates that were a pride of lions to be coming this way, well, they're very confident in themselves, or there isn't a pride of lions coming this way. A stunning, very peaceful little scene there. This is a wonderful opportunity. Wait for it, everybody. Now, Marianne, you're in Texas and you're wondering about what's going on at the Djuma Dam Cam. Now, Louise is going to show you what's going on at the Djuma Dam Cam. Louise, tell me when you're there. Now, there you will see two water monitors, and those water monitors apparently are in the business of creating more water monitors. So they have been mating with great enthusiasm for much of the afternoon. And Marianne, you want to know how long they will keep that up for. To be honest with you, Marianne, I couldn't possibly tell you. I suspect quite strongly, though, that they're mating now. I'm just opening a book here to see if I can get you a little bit of information. But I suspect they're mating now. No, they are mating now. Good grief, the male seems to be drowning the female. That sounds horrid. I suspect that she will lay her eggs fairly soon. And they lay up 20 to 60 eggs. I'm reading to you now. Of course, I'd love to tell you that I'd remembered all this, but I didn't. And the reason I wanted to look at that is that they hatch in 4 to 6 months after they're laid. So that will be in the height of the summertime when they are eventually hatched. So yeah, that's quite interesting. For 20 to 60 eggs laid in a termite mound. They'll go and find a termite mound somewhere close by. They'll mate in that. No, not mate in that. She'll lay her eggs there, and 4 to 6 months later, the little ones will be born. I suspect 4 months from now, of course, will take us to, well, November or December. So, yeah, that's why they'll do it. Height of the summertime. And Kerry, you have been watching that rather than anything going on here, and you say they've been mating for over 30 minutes. That is quite impressive, I must confess. I think most of the reptiles actually take quite a long time for their conjugal visits, as it were. And yeah, that doesn't surprise me at all. Crocodiles take ages over it. I'm not sure how long it will go on for. I suspect a couple of hours. And remember, of course, they're in the water. It's chilly. They're ectothermic in exactly the same way that those terrapins are ectothermic, which means that all of the heat that they have must come from the environment, which means that they are cold, and so it's going to be difficult for them to move with any kind of speed. And so I think anything going on there is going to be happening very slowly. And it's quite interesting there. Apparently the female is rising, the male struggling to hold on. I'm going to ask Louise how she's identifying one from the other. I don't think I'd be able to identify one from the other, because, of course, they're not equipped. I'm not assuming, at least I think, if I'm not mistaken, no, hang on, I'm wrong. Yes, he does have, I think he's got what we call a hemi-penis, which is a penis that splits in two at the end. And I think they do have that. Some reptiles don't, and many birds don't, of course, and they just sort of join their cloacal openings together, so it's very difficult to tell who's male and who's female. But I think Louise is probably correct there. I, of course, cannot see what's going on there. I'm having it narrated to me. I think it's wonderful that we were able to see that at the Djuma Dam Pan. So keep an eye there. And Louise says they now look like the Loch Ness Monster, which I think is quite amusing. I am currently driving around the Buffelshoek Dam just to see if I can see what those squirrels were alarming at, see if the other lioness isn't around here somewhere. While you are watching mating lizards. So we've just come to the other side of the dam here, just to see if there isn't any evidence of perhaps another lion lying in the shade with 3 other little cubs. But I haven't seen anything here, and I haven't... Ooh, there's plenty of tracking. 1 track. 1 lioness here. No cub tracks though, so I'm sure it's that lioness who comes down to have a drink here every so often. Sorry, beefy buffaloes, we're going to disturb you slightly as we come past. I do apologise. In fact, this is quite a nice view, isn't it, Brian? A view of our beefies and of Bob and his free riders. He's watching us. He doesn't like it when we get too close to us, old Bob. He starts to move away, or he stands up and shows us the full extent of his impressive 2.5 tons. That's 2,500 kilograms, about 6,000 pounds. So they get very, very large indeed. This Land Rover that we're on weighs 1.6 tons when it's unladen. With Brian and the equipment on it, it weighs probably a maximum of 2 tons, so that hippopotamus is substantially heavier than we are here. He's very relaxed at the moment. And Pam, you ask a very, very good question, of course, about Bob the hippo and what is likely to happen to him when his waterhole dries up. Pam, he's in for a tough time, I'm afraid. You know, he's only here, I suspect, because most of the other habitat's been taken by other hippos. And so he's going to have to find some other water. There isn't any big enough to hold him on Djuma, well, except at the Djuma Dam Pan, and I know we had a hippo there, and we had a hippo at the Gallagher waterhole some time back during the height of the summer drought, and that's probably what he'll do. But you know, during the drought season, there have been quite a few deaths of hippopotamus in the Kruger Park, and that's because they just don't have the habitat to be in. And so, yeah, no, it's a slightly bleak future for him unless we get some nice early rains. Because I suspect he's just not quite big enough to take a territory in more salubrious environs. What is wrong with this buffalo's nose here, Brian? Oh, nothing. He just says that he's got quite a lot. He's just got quite a lot of fur underneath his chin. See that, Brian?
I do.
He's got quite an impressive beard.
A goatee.
He's got a goatee, even though he's a buffalo. And a bit of stick and grass attached to the snot coming out of his left nostril.
Lovely.
Especially impressive, shining as it is in the lovely setting sun. Would you like to look at these snotty buffalo a bit more, Brian, or shall we move on?
You can move on.
I think we should move on. Okay, here we go. Alice, you're in Ohio and you ask a very good question. I'm going to stop here simply because it's actually quite a nice shot of 2 buffalo with a hippopotamus in between. Alice, you're in Ohio and you say, what would all the animals do without the termite mounds, given the fact that they are... everything seems to use them. The wild dogs use them, the hyenas use them, the... oh, don't go away. The hyenas use them, the lizards use them, everything uses them to live in, or to give birth in. And, Alice, the answer is, well, they'd really struggle, wouldn't they? They are really a very important source of home for many, many creatures, including one of the other chelonians, or the other chelonians being the speaks-hinged tortoise, and that's one of the tortoise species that we get here. And they live for the winter in the middle of those termite mounds. So yeah, lots and lots of things live there, and the reason so many things live in them is because they're so beautifully well insulated. They're brilliantly designed. He likes us a bit more, that one, I think, Brian. He's also got snot coming out of his nose. He's got a cold.
It is winter.
It is winter, yes, as we all know. One shouldn't judge him too harshly. He does look so very cross. And some of you, I think, are probably wondering what that white stuff on his chin is. The white stuff is simply saliva. He's not rabid. And it's saliva that is sort of foaming because they chew all the time, of course. They have to chew and chew and chew when they've got their cud coming up. And so he's been chewing the cud, and that's just left that foam there. That snotty nose, although I'm being slightly facetious about it, doesn't look great to me, I must say. And we know that the buffalo of the Kruger National Park do carry bovine tuberculosis. I've got no idea if that's got something to do with that or not. But as drought conditions persist and life becomes difficult for them, so symptoms of TB might be expressed. Now, I don't know what that is, or whether that is or isn't a symptom of TB. While we look at that, he obviously doesn't think it is. You see, he's giving me a very dirty look indeed. Jamie is on Cheetah Plains, and this time I believe she has found some more elephants.
Well, it's a huge relief to hear that the buffalo is rabies-free. Our elephants are also rabies-free, as far as I can tell, but I will say that they are incredibly numerous on Cheetah Plains this afternoon, which is sort of what we predicted. I actually didn't mean to stop here. I was going to rush around because there's a herd racing towards 3 in a row pan to go and have a drink, but I have hit an elephant roadblock. Not actually hit, but I have encountered an elephant roadblock. And since it is such a beautiful afternoon, we can spend some time watching them before they give us a chance to drive past and back across to 3 in a row pan, which is actually 2 in a row pan today, as we confirmed this morning. A female straggling at the back. There's a huge herd that ran past us earlier. Absolutely enormous. There must have been about 40 elephants. Oh, we've got some more crossing the road in front of us. I think this is most likely a separate herd, but they've all joined together. And that's the lovely thing about elephants, is that there's no real set in territories or defined structures. There's no elephant herds that don't like each other. Everybody in an elephant herd generally gets along with everybody else, as long as they remember their place. Run, little one. Mommy gone. And hello to Mary Edwards, as we saw that young calf dash across, and we spoke about the age at which elephants start growing tusks, and I mentioned the fact that not every elephant will grow tusks inevitably, that there is a genetic abnormality that causes them to be born tuskless. Mary Edmonds, yes, it is caused by a genetic abnormality. Hello. The normal population size, or the proportion of elephants born without tusks is actually very, very low. It's around 4% of all elephants that are born naturally without tusks at all. Unfortunately, as human beings, not in this area, but if you go further north into Africa, as human beings, we've artificially increased that number just due to poaching problems for elephants with tusks. Obviously, that selects for those without. That's not a problem here. We do get 1 or 2 little individuals, or big individuals that don't have any tusks. There's a couple of large females without them. There is at least one large male that we know of without any tusks. Oh, somebody's trumpeting at the back. And we've heard where those sounds emanate from because we saw that incredible sighting just a few days ago where a female elephant pushed over and pinned down a young male as a way of disciplining him. I don't know what he did. I think he gave her a little bit of cheek. And we do occasionally see them without tusks, but the little ones that we're seeing now, Mary, are just without tusks because they haven't grown yet. They only start to show through at about 3 years old. My goodness me, not that I'm ever one to complain about a lack or about too many elephants. I'm thrilled that there are as many elephants as there are, but there really are lots and lots of elephants on Cheetah Plains. It is quite extraordinary. Can hear them everywhere. Oh, hello, little one. And that, of course, is because they're all coming in from the Kruger National Park because there's water here. And that is why they're coming here. And we've got them all around us. Little calf off to our right. And then just a sort of screen of disappearing grey bottoms against the outline of the trees. It's simply marvellous. Chandra, there's a little one that, I think he's going to stop doing it, but it's a little one doing ballet. That little one straight ahead. There's a little bit to, yeah, that's the one. There we go. He was doing ballet, but I think it stopped for now, or resting its little feet, resting its weight on one hip. But it was doing little attitudes and little dance moves. Baby elephants are always tremendously entertaining to watch, especially when they learn to use their trunks, which doesn't come straight away, it comes with practice. Now, Michael, there are no bones in an elephant's trunk. There are somewhere between 50 to 100,000 muscles, though, in a really complex structure. They're sort of horizontal, vertical, and cross bands. Oh, there we go, he's doing ballet again. Itchy ankle. Almost, little one. Yes, you get that tree. You get it. Show it who's boss. Now, Jerry, of course, in final control, disagrees with me that the baby elephant is doing ballet. She thinks it is doing the tree pose, which makes it yoga-related rather than ballet-related. Certainly when I was a little girl, there were no yoga classes for children. I have no doubt that that has changed these days, so perhaps Jerry is right. Perhaps our little one, even at a tender age of a couple of months old, is doing yoga. Jerry, I disagree. I think it was ballet. All right. Let us go and catch up with the rest of the herd. Michael, that amazing movement of the trunk, as I said, is this really complex combination of muscles that is absolutely fascinating to look at. And when you think of what a trunk is capable of, it's capable of tearing off branches, pushing down trees, and at the same time delicate enough to accordion or concertina forward, pick something up that could be the size of a toothpick in between the two lips of the trunk. And the most astounding result of years and years or thousands of years of evolution to create the trunk, and there's nothing like it out here. The elephant is the only animal with this phenomenal proboscis-like extension of its face. It's something that is truly fascinating to watch elephants use. Their level of dexterity, less so for the little ones. They've got to practice, just like toddlers have to practice using their hands. But it is, I think, one of the things that fascinates people the most about elephants, Oh, did you get something in your eye, little one? Oh, I don't think you would have been able to hear that. But most of you will know, by the way, that little elephant has got his friend. Got a fork-tailed drongo fluttering about, picking up any insects that this little elephant happens to disturb. Now, I'm not sure any of you could hear that. There was that deep, deep rumble that elephants use to communicate, and which I find innately comforting whenever I hear it. That was a particularly low rumble that one of the females gave, and I say it was one of the females, I think it was. And usually the older females use it to communicate with the rest of the herd and also to provide sort of comfort and contact, especially when they're spread out like this. Occasionally you get pairs like this left behind, distracted by a particularly juicy tree. Hello to you, Daniel, while we watch our little baby elephant, and welcome to our live safaris. It is marvelous to have you on board, Daniel, and I'm so glad you get to share in this elephant sighting with us. Daniel is wanting to know a little bit more about when a baby elephant is born. Oh, you're going to chase the drongo now, little one. That would be very unproductive. So, Daniel, they weigh, depending upon where you are from, and forgive my conversion rates, between just around 100 kilograms or just under. That will depend, just like human beings, upon the individual mother and calf, but around 100 kilograms or just under 220 odd pounds is how much a baby elephant will weigh. So they look tiny, but you certainly wouldn't want to get involved in a collision with one. And that can range, by the way. That sort of 100 kilograms is the maximum that you will get an elephant calf weighing. And they grow exceptionally rapidly in their first 10 or so years of life, or especially in their first 5 or so years of life. Hello to Tasha. Speaking of the elephant's anatomy, we've chatted a bit about, we've touched on their marvelous trunk, or their tremendous trunk, and now onto their elephantine ears. No, that didn't work, sorry. Anyway, moving on very rapidly. Tasha, in terms of their ears, no, they're not made up mainly of cartilage, although they do have a little bit of cartilage in their ears, but most of it is skin, but also blood vessels. So, Tasha, I'm sure that you know that the elephant's ear is its air conditioning unit. Well, if you didn't, I'm telling you now. In other words, it's the way in which an elephant cools down. So what is in that ear mostly is blood vessels. There's a strip of cartilage that holds its shape, and then most of that is a dense network of capillaries to bring the blood close to the surface of the ear. So when they flap them like that, they're not saying I'm angry. They're basically telling you that they're hot and they're trying to cool down. With a tremendous amount of blood that pumps through those enormous ears, with that enormous surface area, it allows them to rapidly cool down. I'm hoping we haven't missed our herd drinking at 2 in a row pan, a different herd, the herd that came running across. I do want to scoot forward and go and investigate that. In the meantime, let's go across to James, who has got probably the antelope that wins prizes for being the best looking.
There is an antelope that wins the best prize for being the best looking, everybody. As Jamie said, it is a Nyala, of course, a beautiful Nyala bull, and he was, just before you came across here, eating a bone. And I'm going to go and retrieve that bone once he's moved off, so that I might show it to you, and you should marvel at the fact that that Nyala thinks that it is a hyena. Doesn't it, Brian? It was even whooping like a hyena, wasn't it? Don't be ridiculous. going to be all gobby, Brian. Standard issue bone, everybody, and this is what the Nyala was eating. And indeed, you can see it, the glistening of the Nyala saliva there. Can you see it, Brian? Not really.
Not really,
No,
no.
wrong side of the light, really, isn't it? Yes, yes. Anyway, it's not unusual. It's completely common, of course, for Nyala, especially this time of the year, to eat bones. Nyala are particularly fond of it, but many other antelope as well will suck on these bones. Apparently, it is largely for phosphorus, but also for calcium that they get out of these bones, and of course that's because there's just simply not enough of it in the foliage that they eat.
Can you see his teeth marks?
I cannot see his teeth marks because I think they do more sucking than chewing, you know, being blessed with teeth rather like ours, and we might... No, I'm not really going to do that. It would be quite dangerous, I think, for us as human beings to be trying to put these sorts of things in our mouths. We don't have the digestive enzymes to cope with whatever bacteria could be on here. It was broken open by a hyena at some stage, and the hyena would have sucked the marrow out, would have been very rich in fat, very good for hyena. And now the bone, of course, despite the fact that whatever hapless animal it was killed somewhere here some time back, gave its life. It is still giving to the wilderness as we speak. On we go, Brian. See if we can find a leopard. I said to Brian, would you like to see a leopard? And he said yes, he would. So that's what we're going to try and find.